guy, working occasionally as a metal worker in the shipyards of Piraeus, the job his father did all his life. Like him, Pavlos was a member of the Metal Workers Union, a combative, class-oriented union, and he spent all his life in Keratsini, an emblematic worker stronghold of the industrial belt of Piraeus. Pavlos was also a well-known figure in the local community and beyond. He was a committed activist, and by the name of Killah P, an artist active in the hip-hop scene. His songs expressed the rage of the people of his class, but his was a rage that was politically loaded and class-aware. By listening to his songs, thousands of young people could get a glimpse of a political discourse directly connected to their everyday experience. Pavlos became a target of neo-Nazi thugs because he was one of those people whose presence on the ground in those working-class neighborhoods devastated by the crisis is a permanent obstacle for fascist agitation and recruitment. The murder of Pavlos is not an isolated act. It is not a coincidence that fascist violence escalated precisely after the start of the most important strikes in Greece of the past 18 months. It is not a coincidence that throughout this period, Golden Dawn has enjoyed the sometimes passive, sometimes active support of the Greek police, a police which is deeply infiltrated by the fascist cancer. And of course, it is not a coincidence that successive governments have been targeting migrants for years, legitimizing thus the racist discourse that portrays them as responsible for the crisis. Following on its predecessor's footsteps, the current government has turned racism into a state doctrine and policy. It has also legitimized Golden Dawn's inclusion into the political scene through the use of the so-called theory of the two extremes, a theory constantly propagated by the media, which essentially claims that the Nazis are not worse than the radical left, and that the Nazi violence is no bigger threat than the supposed violence of popular protests. How has all this become possible? Why is fascism in its most radical form on the rise in a country like Greece, with such an experience of dictatorships, a country where fascism never before developed into a popular movement? The answer is in a way quite simple. Fascism and its political expression, Golden Dawn, could only emerge as a mass movement in a country devastated by the shock doctrine applied over the last 3 years under the supervision of the European Union and the IMF. They could only develop in a country where recession, unemployment and poverty have reached levels unseen in this part of this world since the 1930s. In a country where democracy has been destroyed and an entire society humiliated. It is not possible to wage any serious fight against fascism without simultaneously fighting against those policies that paved the way to its rise. And it is a scandal to stigmatize the Greek people or any part of the Greek society for their alleged propensity to support the fascist party without seeing the scale of destruction and of despair that lies behind it. In order to fight fascism, it is indispensable that we have the broadest possible unity, the unity we have in our gathering today. But anti-fascist unity should not by any means serve as a pretext to build bridges with the parties and the forces or the system that produced these developments. Yeah. This unity can only be the unity of the popular forces, of the forces involved in the popular resistance against those barbaric policies. This unity has to be built at all levels through joint common actions and discussions. Our gathering today shows that such unity is not only necessary, but also possible. We call on everyone who is interested after this gathering to join us in forming a network against fascism in Greece. This is the moment to fight back. Θάνατος στο φασισμό! No pasarán! Ούτε EDL, ούτε Χρυσή Αυγή, τσακίστε τους φασίστες σ' ολόκληρη τη γη. Ούτε EDL, ούτε Χρυσή Αυγή, τσακίστε τους φασίστες σ' ολόκληρη τη γη. Ούτε EDL, ούτε Χρυσή Αυγή, τσακίστε τους φασίστες σ' ολόκληρη τη γη.
Guys, do you have like any representative of your organization that would like to make a statement or anything like that?
In the AFN.
Okay, AFN. Okay. I'll speak. I will look right
Okay, so as if that would be, yeah, all right.
Now we will have a statement by Charlie Kimber, National Secretary of the Socialist Workers' Party.